Welcome. We're from all over. I love it. Okay, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get started. So, as we go along, if you have a question, please just drop it in the chat. And I have somebody here helping me today who's going to gather all of your questions as we go. It's hard to present and also monitor the chat. So, I've got somebody doing that for me. And just if you have a question along the way, put it in there and then we'll answer them all at the end. I'm going to share my screen. There we go. Also, one of the things I'll do that you'll notice is that I don't really put it in presenter mode. I leave it in this kind of production mode because it's easier to click in and out of things. It just is. So this is kind of where I start. All right, let's start with a little poll. So which one sounds the most like you as a campus principal or a campus assistant principal right now? You know you should be in classrooms, but your whole day gets hijacked solving one problem after another. Or you feel like you're working nonstop, but you're rarely working on things that you feel like are really going to improve teaching and learning in your building. Or you were hired as a turnaround principal for a school that's in a little bit of trouble and you don't spend enough time instructional leadership priorities because of all the fires you're putting out every day and you're worried about not meeting the goals that you know you were hired to meet. Or you're just so tired and sometimes discouraged by this job that you don't know how much longer you can survive in this role. So in the chat, which of the four feels the most like you? And it might be that none of them do. Maybe none of them do. And you're just wanting to be more organized and strategic with your time and you're still feeling rejuvenated by the job every day. But put it in the chat for me and let me see how you're feeling. Ones, one and two, one and two. Yeah, I hear you. Ones and twos mostly. Got a three here. Yep. That's a heavy burden to go. I was hired to turn this school around. And if everybody had the easy answer to that, there wouldn't be turnaround schools, right? All right. Well, I'm glad you're here today. And I hope that what I have to show and share with you will really help you. And so you're not alone if you feel like this job is just not sustainable sometimes. Only about a third of principals remain at their same school after 5 years. And only about 60% of principals are still serving as principals at all somewhere after 5 years, which means we lose 40% through attrition out of people out of this role because it's just not sustainable. It's very difficult to do this job really well and not feel like it eats your whole life and gives you time to recover so that you can sustain and thrive and have a life of your own and also pay attention to your own children, right? I know that that can be really hard and I've been there and I'll tell you a little bit about me in just a minute, but you didn't become a principal to answer nonstop emails in your office and put out every fire as people put their head in your door and go, you got a minute? I always felt like my entire day was made up of you got a minutes, right? You became a principal because you really wanted to have greater influence over improving the lives of kids. So today I'm going to show you several things. I'm going to show you how to pinpoint where your time is going and what's stealing it from instructional leadership. I'm going to show you how to build daily structures that can get you into classrooms more consistently and also use simple systems to protect and prioritize the work that actually improves teaching and learning. And one of the things I didn't put on here also is I hope I teach you some things that also improves your home life. Right? I'm not a marriage counselor, but you know what I'm saying is that it allows you to leave work at work and go home. For me, that was the hardest part of being a school principal was that I never felt like I could go home and just leave it all at work because it followed me home into my evening and I'm worried about things and I'm reading things at home at night that then ruin my weekend or my night with my family. And I felt like that was the piece that kept it from being unsustainable. I could do hard things when I'm at work every day. Like that's what we get hired to do. Right. But am I carrying it 24/7, interrupting my sleep, interrupting my family time? And that is often why we burn out and we just can't sustain in the ways that we want to. Let me just tell you a little bit about me, in case you're wondering, how does this lady know anything? I spent almost 30 years in Texas public schools as a teacher for a decade and an assistant principal and a principal for elementary and middle school. And then I became a curriculum director, the director of CNI for my last 3 years. Post pandemic, and then I retired after I met the Texas magic number. If your state does that, it's where your age and your years of service come together to make a magic number, and then voila, you get to retire. So I retired in 2021 and have spent the last 5 years post retirement working as a consultant and a coach for not just principals, but I've done consulting and coaching work all over the US with schools, working on all kinds of things. But I've done, innumerable amounts of learning walks and walkthroughs with campus leaders to look in their classrooms and try to diagnose what's going on and what they should focus on to improve. And I've been doing that work for about 5 years now. And then I also currently, to kind of keep my own hand in the game, for the past year, I also have served as a supervisor for teachers working on their alternative certification. So the teacher shortage is a real thing. And we have people who are getting their alt certs when they already have college degrees. So the teachers that I supervise, and I have about 20 that I supervise every year at like 15, 16 different campuses in about 4 or 5 different school districts here in the Austin area. And I go in and I observe them and I give them feedback and I help them grow in their very first year of teaching as alternatively certified folks. And so that keeps me in classrooms and keeps me talking and working with principals and with brand new teachers. And so I've had a lot of time to hone all my hot sports opinions, if you will. Now, of course, everyone's always welcome to a different opinions, but I feel like I have a good hand
what it is in IC is not probably what we want to call it.
What I want to call it on this.
Somebody's got there. Would you guys go ahead and mute your
sheet.
microphones, please? I can hear somebody's on a call.
What do you think about media?
Fine. Okay.
I like that better, but yeah, I think.
Hey guys, somebody's on the call. Put your
code.
If you would mute your microphone.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I asked Tracy about it.
There we go. I think I found it. Okay, good. All righty. Okay. So anyway, like I said, I spent the last several years of my career as a curriculum director supporting all the elementary principals in my district, and then also doing a whole host of other jobs, because if you're a director in a small district, you wear a ton of hats. So I might talk a little bit more about that. So throughout your years as a principal and assistant principal, we go through many phases, but there's so much joy in it. And I felt like it was always the best job I ever had. I always felt like it was the hardest job I ever had, being a campus principal, but it was also so very fun. And so I want to make sure to kind of share some of those pictures. There's my middle school office staff. We called ourselves the Dynamic Dozen. And so one year we dressed as superheroes, and they truly were just a superhero group. Just made my work easier every day. I loved them. All right. So that's kind of my story. And like I said, now I get to work with schools and principals all over the United States. I've got several private coaching clients, lots of members to my membership, which I'll share with you later. But I do have several coaching clients as principals that I work with one-on-one as well. And here's a few of them in Texas and California. And I won't read their statements for you. You can always go to my website. But I'm so lucky to get to work and walk alongside leaders who are doing amazing work still, and feel like I'm in it with them. And the goal to all the work that I ever do is to support principals and hopefully lighten their load. And so through my work as a coach and a consultant, is to hopefully pass on some of the really hard lessons that I learned in a way that helps principals maybe avoid some of those pitfalls, but also to do things behind the scenes to support their work, to make their load lighter. And that's what I do. Before we jump into the training, so the training I'm going to give you today is all about time management strategies, and they are all the time management strategies that I actually teach to and become an accountability partner for the principals who I coach. So I'm going to share with you today all the different strategies that I teach them. But then at the end, I'm also going to share something extra with you. an opportunity to do more with me or with a group of principals after the training. So at the end of the training, I'll share an opportunity for ongoing support if you want it. If you don't want it, that's fine too. I'm just excited that you're here. And I hope that the things that I teach you today will give you some strategies that you can start your year with to become more intentional about how you spend your time. Because I'm a big believer in the fact that if we don't manage our calendars manage us. And if you stick with me, excuse me, all the way to the end, I have a couple of free resources that I'm going to upload into the chat for you at the end. One of them is called my Tame Your Email Monster System, which I'm going to teach you about today. But this is a set of resources that you can use with your administrative assistant to actually put the system in play. And the other is called the Principal's Daily Wrap-Up Routine. And that's another thing that I'm going to show you during this training. And both of those will help you actually implement a couple of the strategies that I'm going to teach you today. All right, so just a tip. I'm going to show you probably 5 or 6 different things that you can put into play. Don't try to implement them all at once, right? That would be overwhelming. What I would encourage you to do is kind of listen for 1 or 2 that you feel like kind of jive with your style and feels doable to you, makes sense to you, and that you can incorporate into your current practices really easily. So, I don't necessarily think everybody's going to hear all of this and try to implement it all at one time, but try to pick and choose the things that you think you could move forward with fairly easily to try. And then you can always, once you kind of get that down, you can put another thing into play. I want to share a little bit about why your time matters so much, right? The principal's time is incredibly valuable. You get paid a lot of money for it. Well, for this business anyway. And it is your absolute thing that you cannot just give away, right? Instructional leadership can't be left to whatever time is left over. And so often that's the reality that we have. We're so busy solving all the problems and putting out all the fires and answering what I call the mad mama emails that we don't get to the really intentional work that we know is going to move teaching and learning forward. And so I always like to share a couple of studies about how important it is that you're really effective. So on average across schools, the impact of having a principal 1 standard deviation more effective than the average principal is as much as 7 additional months of learning in a single academic year. Let that sink in. The more effective you are, you have a direct impact on instruction. And I think we all know the research behind the idea that the most effective person or the most influential person on a student's learning outcomes is the classroom teacher. Well, number 2 is the campus principal. And the reason for that is you actually influence every single classroom and every single teacher on your campus. And so how effective and how well you use your time makes a huge difference. And so what I can tell you is that highly effective principals raise the achievement of a typical student in their schools between 2 and 7 months of learning in a single school year. So this is found in 2 different studies, and you see I've listed them here, one in 2012 and one in 2018. So your effectiveness and how well you manage your time really matters. So our biggest shift sometimes is not deciding what to do, but deciding what not to do, right? So how you prioritize your work and how you manage and communicate with your staff, how you're going to do that work is really important. All right, I want to start with the Pareto principle. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this. Give me a thumbs up in the chat if you've ever heard of the 80-20 rule or the Pareto principle. The Pareto principle is by an Italian economist in the early 1900s, and it has been picked up and used in the business world for a really, really long time. And basically what it tells us is that about 20% of our actions produce 80% of our outcomes. Think about that for a second. 20% of the things we do are giving us 80% of our outcomes for the positive or the negative of that. So the most crucial thing you can do is identify your most impactful positive actions and try to spend the most time on those things. That's why prioritizing how you're spending your time is so important, right? So I like to lay that little foundation first. Is like, when you think about it, can you identify what are your 3 biggest high impact moves of how you spend your time every week? And then how do you go about protecting those things like they're the most important things in the job that you do, right? And identifying those things first. So one of the activities that I do, I like to share this in the chat. I'm going to grab this real quick and copy it for you. Hold on, copy. Let me put it in the chat for you. There you go. So that is a copy of the Eisenhower Matrix. You may or may not have used something like this before, but I like to use this matrix when I'm working with some of my private coaching clients. And what we do is we look at a couple of things. We pull up their calendar from the last few weeks. We pull up all their to-do lists, and then we begin to identify which one of those activities goes in each part of this matrix. Basically, you're identifying what's important and urgent, right? That means it's time bound, it needs to be done right away, and it's a high leverage thing that needs to be done by you, the principal. That goes in the do box, right? That goes in the green box. Then you've got, okay, this is urgent, but it doesn't have to be done right now, which means it's really important. I have to do it. It's part of my job, but I can schedule it, right? I can put it on my calendar for next week or the week after because the due date's a little bit further out. So that would go in your not urgent, but important column. Then you have your pieces that are not that important, but they're urgent, right? So we all have jobs in our schools that we know need to get done, but it might not be a job that you need to do, right? So if you've ever been to the Breakthrough Coach, I don't know if anybody in here has been through the Breakthrough Coach training. I went several times as a principal. One of the things that Malachi, if you remember who that is, used to say was the principal should only be doing work that only you can do. Right? Everything else should be delegated. But if you haven't really thought through what you're spending your time on and spent some time really thinking about how am I going to really delegate this to my other leaders in my building, whether that be assistant principals or counselors, instructional coaches, teacher leaders. If you haven't really thought through that, then we tend to delegate less. Or we tend to micromanage, right? So really coming to kind of grips around what's important, it needs to be done, or it's not important, like nobody's gonna get fired over it, but it needs to be done quickly and now, and who can I delegate that to? And then you identify things too that you're spending your time on that are not urgent and they're not important, in which case you identify some things that these are things that should not be on your plate at all, should not even make your to-do list. All right, so let's talk about some micro habits that protect instructional leadership time. One of the first skills that I want to talk to you a little bit about, it has to do with your to-do list. In this business, we're big on all of our to-do lists. I feel like I have a to-do list for my to-do list, and I love to cross things off. But what I want to share with you is a strategic way to use your to-do list so that you're taking away some of the mental burden that actually waste time. So there's a really great book. I'm going to grab it right here. It's a really great book. I don't know if you can see this. It's called Eat That Frog. And this is just a time management book. It's very skinny. You can see this is one of my favorite books that I pull out time management strategies from. And it's one of my favorites. And so this particular strategy, along with Eat That Frog, that I'll explain in a minute, comes from that book. And so he talks about the research in there about if at the end of your day, you schedule 5 to 10 minutes to review your to-do list for tomorrow, make sure you identified what the work is that you've really prioritized for tomorrow, you've saved time on your calendar for those things. Sorry, the book is called, grab that question for me there, Alyssa, sorry. So yes, it's called Eat That Frog. And so if you spend time with your to-do list at the end of every day, and then you make sure that you're really clear about what's up for tomorrow, what's up to bat for tomorrow, and you circle your most impactful things that you know would move instruction forward, would move positive learning for teachers and students forward in your building, circle those things. And the thing that they say is Eat the Frog is that when you come in that next morning, You do the hardest, most high impact thing first. Get it off your to-do list. You may have something that you've been putting off that you don't want to do. I can tell you it's taking up space in your brain. And until you put it behind you, the rest of the stuff is harder to do. It can be very tempting to go through our to-do list and tick off and do the things that are easy, low-hanging fruit first and feel good about because we're marking things off. I can tell you the bigger things on your to-do list are the ones taking space in your brain and keeping you from being as effective as you could be. So walking into your school day every day without a fresh understanding about what's being prioritized today actually takes time for you to then get in the right mindset, figure it out every day. So you're coming in every single day with kind of a fresh, what the heck am I doing mindset. And so the idea behind prepping and making sure that you've really looked at your to-do list the night before and thought about it and reflected on what you're going to do tomorrow actually frees you up. And I'm going to tell you why in just a second. And then if you can, eat that frog. And then on Fridays, maybe save yourself 15 minutes at the end of your day on Friday and make sure that you're really clear about what's coming up next week that's important. You make sure they're on your to-do list. You make sure that the important things are scheduled on your calendar. And then you go home and you enjoy your weekend. And let's talk about why that works. There's actually some psychology about a daily wrap-up session that allows you to leave things at school so that you can go home and focus on your recovery, your rest, your family, all those things. And so it's called the Zeigarnik effect. So your brain will hold on to uncompleted goals far better than completed ones. So creating an active open loop that drains mental energy and causes stress. So when you externalize your thoughts into a concrete plan, so i.e. your to-do list that you sat and you've actually gone through and thought about what's for tomorrow, what needs to be solved tomorrow, and all of those things, then your brain's prefrontal cortex no longer needs to waste working memory on keeping track of that to-do list. So your brain isn't all night long worrying about all those things that you think you need to do and solve because you've made a plan for how you're going to solve those tomorrow or how you're going to solve them next week or how you're going to solve them over the next 2 weeks because you've calendared it, you've got a plan for it. So your brain isn't at home constantly working through all those same issues that you already did because you made a plan for that and now you're moving on. So continuous mental engagement, even if it's positive, can lead to burnout. So shutting down projects that you're shutting down protects your peace so that you can actually recover, right? So the whole science behind looking at your to-do list at the end of the day is actually a daily wrap up that lets you let go of what's happening every day at school so that you can go home, rest and recover and come back fresh the next day to be a great leader again all over. Now, I've been in this business long enough and I was a principal long enough to tell you that doesn't work with every single situation, right? We have some big, heavy things that come our way sometimes. And just putting it on our to-do list and making time to solve it tomorrow and work and talk to people tomorrow doesn't mean we're not going to think about it. There are some biggies that happens, but those are the big thingies, right? Like the daily worries that we're taking home every single day, those can be put on the back burner of our brain until tomorrow, but you have to be really strategic about it. So one of the things I'm going to give you at the end, I'm going to put in the chat at the very end today, is this principles daily wrap up that I've developed. And so it's about a page and a half of the description of the daily wrap up steps. So that you know what you should be doing for those 10 minutes, what should I be doing? And then there's like a quick checklist version, right? So you can see it on the screen right now, like take a quick mental walkthrough of my day, notice what's still open, add missing follow-ups to my to-do list. Anyway, I don't have to read them all to you because I'm actually going to give you this principle wrap up here at the end. But if you'll spend and put it on your calendar and save that time on your calendar and let your administrative assistant know that you're protecting that time for daily reflection. Daily reflection can sound like a woo-woo waste of time to people who don't know the science behind it. It actually saves you hours every week of wondering what you should be doing and working on, and also wastes a lot of brain power and emotional stress in your evenings and on your weekends because your brain's going to keep trying to solve those things. Close the loop, close the loop, close the loop. Well, close the loop before you leave school every day with this and make it a habit. And then you're going to feel freer in the evenings and you're going to be more prepared tomorrow because you're going to already have prioritized the work you want to get done tomorrow, which isn't to say things aren't going to come up. Of course, things are going to come up. That's the job, right? Okay, I'm going to take a quick water break. Hold on just one sec. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Okay, this might be an unpopular opinion, and I actually did. I did a post about this recently, and I also wrote a blog about it. And it always brings up lots of opinions about it. But we've been sold a bill of goods. I will tell you that in order to be approachable and warm, and wanting to people to bring us the hard things so that we can help them, that we have to have, quote, an open door policy. Right? That our door needs to be open, and anybody who needs us can walk in at any moment during any time of the day, as long as I'm in there and there's nobody else in there with me. It doesn't matter what I'm doing as the principal. You just come on in. I even told myself this many years ago when I was first becoming a principal. I used to say, I'm going to take care of the people in front of me, and then I'll just worry about all the paperwork and all the other responsibilities when nobody else is around. Well, when you know what that is, that's the evenings and the weekends, and it's not sustainable. And so becoming really strategic about how you use your time, and I'll show you a little calendaring system in just a minute for you to think through, helps to protect some of that, what I call office work time, because it's okay a few times a week for you to close your door. You can have a sign on your door. Your administrative assistant can protect your time or whatever. And you could say, this is my focused work time. If you have something urgent, you need to see me, see my administrative assistant, and she'll write it down, and I'll come see you as soon as I'm done doing X, Y, and Z or whatever. But the idea that we have to be just waiting in our offices for people to come by and say, you got a minute, and come in with every single problem all day long of every size and nature, is crazy, right? Like, you don't just walk into, any other professional's office and assume they can see you right this second, right? People have to make appointments to see you. And so having a strategy and a plan for making sure that you're still visible, you're still in classrooms. But if you're actually save some time that you can actually work quietly in your office uninterrupted, then you need less office time, right? So that works in tandem with the to-do list, right? So you have a to-do list that you've been really specific about. You've circled the things that have to happen today. You have an hour or a 90-minute office work block for that day. You know what the one thing is that you're going to work on. And then you get in there, you close your door, you work on it, you get it done, you open your door, and you get out of your office. And that's how you get into classrooms more, is that you're not trying to do all of your instructional leadership in between every person who pops their head in your door. Also, the more you're out and in your building, the less people start looking for you in your office. And so it works both ways. So the more that you're able to protect small bits of time for office work time, and then also schedule classroom time to go be out in your building, allows you to be out in your building more. And people stop looking for you in your office all the time. And also, what you can say to your staff too is, hey, I'm trying something new this year. I'm not going to just be in I'm going to be out of my office as much as I can. I'm going to be in classrooms and in common areas, cafeterias, playgrounds, pick up, drop off. I want to be in PLCs. I want to be in the places where teaching and learning are happening and students and teachers are. And I want to do that as much as possible. So to do that, I have to be strategic, which means that when you come looking for me at any time of the day, to pop your head in my door and ask me a quick question here or that, then please know that what I'd like you to do is, if you need to see me in my office about something, is you need to make an appointment for that. Just see my administrative assistant, make a 10, 15-minute appointment during your conference or before or after school. And that way, when you come to see me, I'm focused on only you and whatever it is you're bringing me for help, to get help with. And so making sure that you are communicating why you're doing that to your staff, right? You can't just all of a sudden start a new system for managing your time and not tell your staff what's going on. What you can say is, I'm prioritizing instructional leadership this year. I'm prioritizing my time in classrooms. And in order to do that, I have to be more structured with the time when I'm not in my classrooms, which means that you can't just walk in my office all day, every day. Because what happens is, and you know this is true, is that you've put a chunk of time on your calendar to go into classrooms. And all of a sudden, 3 people in a row come into your office with, you got a minute? I got a problem. You got a minute? And then all of a sudden you've given your entire classroom observation time away. Right. So unless it's like a teacher's, formal evaluation that you book ahead of time, right? We don't usually let anything get in the way of that. But if it's walkthroughs and just classroom visits or learning rounds or learning walks with our team, we absolutely sacrifice those all the time for people that are walking in our office doors with something that may or may not trump going into classrooms. Right. So understanding and knowing, being really strategic with your time. And in just a minute, I'm going to show you a little bit about that. So let's talk about your calendar. Right. So if you want to make a system like that work, you want to kind of end your open door policy. Right. I always am like, I want to have an open door attitude, and I want to have an open door heart, and I want people to know that I'm approachable and I care about the work they're doing. But I also want them to know that every minute of my day really matters. And in order to be as effective as you need me to be, I'm going to have to be more strategic than what I have been, which is flying by the seat of my pants every day, taking things as they come all day, every day, and just doing what's in front of me that is the loudest, right? I have to be more strategic than that. And if I'm not, then I'm not the leader you need me to be. And we're not going to get where it is we want to go with our school. And so let's talk about your calendar time. So when you're thinking about your week ahead, right? So we talked about your to-do lists, right? And your daily to-do list. Well, here you are on a Friday afternoon, and maybe you have a Friday afternoon meeting with your administrative assistant, or maybe you do a Monday morning meeting with your administrative assistant. If you don't have a weekly meeting set with your administrative assistant, I absolutely recommend that that's something that you put on your calendar with them. That's the person that's going to help protect you and your time and make you get out of your office when you've committed to do that, right? You kind of have to turn over the power to them to say, hey, here's my calendar. Here's the thing I set. These are the things I promised I was going to do this week. And I need you, unless, fire, flood, or the police are at the door, which does happen. You kick me out of my office. So if somebody comes in here for, you got a minute, and you see I'm in here being way too nice and trying to help and whatever, and my calendar says I'm supposed to be in classrooms, come in and say, hey, Jodie, you promised you'd be in classrooms today. I really need to kick you out of your office. Do you need more time to wrap this up? And then turn to the person and help them schedule a time. So have that person work with you to help you make sure that you do the things you promised you're going to do. So the week before, or maybe even 2 weeks before, you need to calendar out your time on your calendar, and you need to save chunks of time each day on your calendar for going into classrooms. And then you also need to book time that's going to be your office time, so that you have saved those times and you can see when those things are coming up. So here's an example of a calendar. You can see that in just a minute, I'm going to talk to you about the email check-ins that are on here, but don't worry about that right now. But you can see I've put classroom visits, and if I was just starting out, I might just put, this is, I think, 2 hours worth of classroom visits 3 days a week. And so when you look at your calendar, there's still plenty of space for other things to be happening. So you fill in the open spaces with your classroom visits. And then you tell your administrative assistant, unless something's really big and it's a superintendent who wants to meet with me, or it's absolutely an emergency ARD that they have to have me for because something catastrophic has happened and I have to be there, like nothing else is allowed to be scheduled over these. This is my priority, right? Instructional leadership is my priority. Being in classrooms and seeing teaching and learning up close so that I can help support teachers and grow my staff is the most important work I do. And so I'm going to schedule that on my calendar. Then as you get better at this over time, you maybe have 4 blocks of 2 hours. Because I can tell you right now, most principals are not spending 6 to 8 hours of their week in a classroom. But if you think about it, that's not even 20% of your time. And remember what we talked about, right? 20% of your actions are going to lead to 80% of your outcomes. So what are you prioritizing? And then you can also see that I've also put every single day, I put like an hour, 15 minutes or so, or an hour and a half on my calendar several days a week for an office hour. That's where I'm going to close my door. I will have already identified on my to-do list the thing I'm going to do during that hour. So I don't get in my office. I'm not scrambling around. What am I going to do with this office hour? I already know because I spent the last 10 minutes of my day yesterday with my to-do list and my calendar, identifying what's the important work today. And I circled the stuff that was going to be my office hour work. So I get in there, I know what I'm going to work on. I pull it up and I work on it for that hour. And then I put it away and I get out of my office again. And if I'm not scheduled to be in classrooms, either A, I pick up extra time in classrooms if nobody needs me, or I go to a common space where teachers and students are to see how much I can help and be visible. Because the more people see you out and about in your building, the more they can just ask you quick things in passing, the more in touch you are with how they're doing, the less surprised you are by things that they need on a daily basis. So the more that you are doing that, the more strategic you are with your time, the more time you can be out of your office, the less time they're going to come looking for you. So it works really nicely. It works in both ways, actually, right? It can be a crazy catch-22 stuck in your office. Or once you train people and train yourself to be more strategic with your time, then the less they come actually looking for you in your office because you're really not in there that much. And when you are, maybe your door's closed because you're having your office hour and then you're out of there. Right. And so unless they've made an appointment to come and see you, which it's okay, you are a professional, you're getting paid a lot for your time and you should be strategic with it. And if someone needs to see you for something important, they should book some time to see you so you can focus just on them and whatever it is they have going on. And then you're going to see, I also have some email checks in here. We're going to talk about email in just a minute, but you can see I've scheduled a 15-minute chunk at the beginning, lunchtime, and end of my day. And that's it. And in just a minute, I'm going to talk about why. All right, give me just one sec to grab a drink. Ooh-wee. Okay. All right, so I already talked about this, I think. I got ahead of myself. Basically, this just means managing your office time. Well, I think we all know by now that the research is out on the brain. We don't actually multitask. We can't do several things at one time. We switch from task to task, and the transition for those takes longer for some people than others. And so the more we're transitioning between tasks, then the less we're actually getting done. So when you go in for your office time, do yourself a favor. Put your phone on Do Not Disturb, stick it in your office drawer. Or better yet, put it on Do Not Disturb and leave it with your admin assistant outside of your office. Just the presence of our phone, there's actual research about just the presence of it sitting there where you can see it is distracting, takes away from your focus and concentration. Put your phone away during your office block of time to work. And then be really clear about what it is you're using that time for, right? Here's the one thing I'm going to get done during my office time, and I'm going to get in there, I'm going to get it done. Also, your office blocks are not for email. Do not be checking your email during your office block. You have set times of the day that are for checking your email. And I know you're probably saying, but I get hundreds of email a day. How am I ever going to do that in 3 15-minute chunks? We're going to talk about that in a minute. I have a system for that. But I didn't have a system back then. And I wish I did. I created this later alongside some coaching clients, and it really has been working for them. And also, I learned it from some high school principals who have really big staffs, and there's no way they can read all their email themselves every day. And so I actually built this system based on input from principals who already do similar things, and it works for them. And then also some things that have worked for coaching clients. And so I'm going to share with you in just a minute what that looks like. All right, let's talk a little bit about delegation for just a minute. I don't have a big system for how to delegate, right? But I will tell you it's one of the most important things we do in order to build the leaders around us. And so I don't know if you're like me, but I do a lot of reading of the posts of people in those big principal groups that are online. Some of you may have found me through one of the principal groups that's on Facebook. They have tens of thousands of administrators in them, either assistant principals, aspiring principals. And I hear a lot from those folks, especially the assistant principals, who often feel like their principals don't trust them to do the work, right? Or they feel like they're micromanaged, or they feel like, hey, I really want to be a principal one day, and yet I'm not learning how to do any of the job because my principal doesn't delegate very much to me. And so there's a rule around delegation. It's called the 70% rule. And it says, as long as somebody else can do a job about as 70% as well as you could do it, if you did it yourself, let it go. They're going to learn how to do it. They're going to learn how to do it well. And a lot of times they'll learn how to do it better than we would. Right. So, but delegation builds capacity for your assistant principals. I don't know how many of you felt like this. Put a little thumbs up in the chat if you felt like this. But when I first walked into the principalship and I stood there and looked around my office, I remember a very distinct feeling of, oh my God, I have no idea what this job is. And I thought I did. I'd been an assistant principal for a number of years, and I was like, I know what the principal does. You don't. You don't. And you don't know until you're in that seat doing it. And then all of a sudden you're just there figuring it out on your own, right? And they've given you a mentor, right, in your district who is another principal whose hair is on fire running their school, right? So we really, as principals, get into that role and have to figure it out. So the more that we can delegate things that can be done by our assistant principals and even our instructional coaches who maybe want to be administrators, or I've had some great teachers going through their administrative internships that have done some great work for me. What can be delegated to build capacity in those people so that maybe one day they're not standing in their office like we were looking around going, oh crap, what is this job? Like, what is this job? And then over the course of a number of months, oh boy, that work reveals itself to you, right? You're like, yeah, 3 months in, you're going, oh, okay, oh dear. And then all of a sudden you're like, I've got this monumental job to do, and it's all becoming clear to me. Or the stuff you don't know just sneaks up on you, right? So anyway, delegation's important. Mapping out what can be shared and what can be passed on and who's responsible for what before the school year starts is really important. I'll give a little plug to, I have a strategic plan. I have a strategic planning service that I do for principals. So I go and I work with their administrative teams. I'm going to Houston next week to work with my friend Monica and her admin staff. And we build a strategic plan for the year that is the marching orders for the admin team, right? So it's not your CIP or your SIP. It's not your school improvement plan. It is the strategic plan for what are the leaders are going to do all year long that are going to move those big goals, those big rocks that we have every year there are big lofty goals for the year. Here's the things we want to get done. But it is actually the plan for how do the administrators lead that work and make sure that work's actually happening, and then who owns what. And so if you've ever been to my website, I actually have a page for strategic planning, and you can actually buy my whole system, which has agendas and slide decks. It has a video from me showing you exactly how to go through the whole training with your staff. So you can actually lead a strategic planning with your admin team before school starts. So you're already identifying what's the big work, what's going to be delegated to who's going to lead it, what the timelines are, and those things, so that they can own those things. And so if you don't do some kind of strategic planning with your admin team before school starts, I highly recommend you do. And you can, it's not very expensive, and you can purchase it and use that with your staff, with your leadership staff, if you want to. Or in a little while, I'm going to show you how to get it as part of a much bigger collection of resources that you could have access to. I'll share that in just a minute. Anyway, the difference between allocation and delegation, right? So allocation is you kind of give somebody a job to do, but you're going to check on them and you're going to make sure it's all right. And you're going to double check it and make sure before it gets submitted and all these things. Delegation is about giving someone responsibility, authority, and accountability for the outcome, right? So it's not like, I'm going to give you this thing, I'm going to check you 10 times to Tuesday, because this doesn't free your brain up. Right? You need to be free to do the work of the principal, which is the strategic instructional leadership jobs that you need to be doing. And so the things that you delegate, you have to be able to trust the people that you hired to do them. Right? And then make sure they understand that the accountability and the outcome for that is theirs to carry. and to also celebrate, right? So then we give them credit for all the great work they're doing in that area. And it's one of the things they can hold up later to say, hey, I'm ready to be a principal because I have led X, Y, and Z. And this could be your APs, your coaches, your teacher leaders, even some folks in your office staff can lead some of the things that are really important for our school. Okay. I am going to talk to you about my email system now. Okay, I call this Tame Your Email Monster because even after I retired, I had what I felt like was email PTSD. It's that feeling of I'm going to open my email and there's going to be something terrible in there that I'm going to have to deal with and solve. That's going to be really hard, right? And so I got to where like towards the end of my career, like just opening my email, my heart would start beating really fast. And I would like, am I breaking out in a sweat right now? What is happening? This is crazy. How am I letting email run my life? But it was true. And that was happening. And so, I created the system based on a couple of things. One being work I already saw some principals doing. First of all, really effective strategies they were already using. And then some other research around our time and things like that. And so I'm going to open this. Hopefully you'll be able to see it. There we go. Okay, so this is the Tame Your Email system. Okay. So first of all, your administrative assistant plays a very big role in this system. So for those of you who don't feel like you have an administrative assistant that you can trust with your email, that's the wrong person in that role then. Your administrative assistant has to be somebody that you can trust to read your email. And so I know a few people will come into the comment, not here, but whenever I bring this up in groups, people will say things like, well, I get a lot of confidential stuff. So does your superintendent. I am telling you right now, I don't know a superintendent who reads all their own email. They just don't. They can't. Their administrative assistant is vetting everything for them. And your administrative assistant can do the same for you. With a little bit of training, they can prepare your email so that you can go at it in a really organized way. And so if it's okay for your superintendent's email to be read by their administrative assistant, yours can read yours. They do have a legal right to know. They are your right hand. They are helping you, and they don't have to read every word of every email to know exactly what's, the kind of thing that's in there and whether or not you need to see it, right? So first of all, you empower your administrative assistant to be somebody who helps you vet your email. So you're not the first person looking at your email every day. Then they do a pre-sort of your email. They can create some folders for you, and how you name these folders can be different for every person based upon how you work, right? But there may be an urgent folder, a folder for something you have to respond to, a folder that requires like you to do something, actually like a report is due, or you actually have to go do something to make that happen, make a phone call, whatever. And then there's like a to schedule one where like if they added things to your calendars or whatever, maybe the emails are in there. And then there might be just an FYI folder. And FYI means like, the millions of emails that you're copied on, but you don't really need to see it, right? We're copied as principals. The numbers of things I used to get copied on, right? And my middle school was big. We had 1,600 students in my middle school. And so the number of stuff I would be just, copied on, CC'd on was crazy. There was no way I could read all of that, but they could put it in the FYI folder for you so that if somebody says, hey, did you see that thing that I sent you about X, Y, and Z? I can go, no, but I'm gonna go look for it and see if I need to read it right now. So that you can look at it later if you need to. So the person, your administrative assistant or your secretary, the school secretary, whatever you call that person who is your right-hand person, sorts your email ahead of time, and they delete all the junk, right? You get a lot of junk. Hate to say it, you get stuff from people like me, right? So, and some of it you may want to see and some of it you may not want to see, and you can let your administrative assistant know. So that's part of what you do. I'll do that in a second, but you train them. So this doesn't just happen by accident. In a minute, I'm going to show you some of the resources that are in the system that I'm actually going to share with you at the end for you to take with you. There's resources to support the training of your admin assistant. And so you'll sit down with them a couple of times first and go through your email together and sort it together and talk about the kinds of things that go in urgent, the kinds of things that go in needs a response, the kinds of things that are just FYIs, the kind of stuff that can just be deleted right? And then as they take over this process for you, this first vetting of your email, there's going to be things they have questions about. And so there may be like an extra folder to begin with called not sure what to do with it, right? So then you look at that together really quick and go, okay, that goes here or that goes here, that can be. And then over time, they're going to learn how you prioritize your email and how you want that done. I know high school principals that run big high schools. They absolutely do not look at their email first, which is sometimes why you don't hear from high school principals as much as you do sign up elementary principals directly, because many high school principals, their high schools are so big that they're basically, I always say, like a mayor of a small town, right? They're getting so much email on a daily basis that they have to have somebody that goes through it for them, right? And I also know that superintendents do this as well. Well, any principal, no matter how big your school, can put this into play if you have an administrative assistant. If you don't have an admin assistant, you could try doing some of this yourself and just coming up with a system for quickly organizing your stuff. Maybe you 10 minutes organizing your emails, and then you can go through your folder during your time. So, but if your admin assistant is doing this for you, you can see how those little 15-minute blocks at the beginning, lunchtime, and end of your day, you open it up, you look in your folders, you take action on what you need to take action for, and you close it and walk away. That's what I'm going to talk about, the boundaries first. So that means when you're not in your email window on your calendar, your email's not open. Shut her down. Do not pull it up on your phone as you walk around during the school day, right? You need to be present in the places that you're at. And that doesn't mean checking your email from a laptop on a cart in the hallway is being present, right? I know that's a very popular thing to do, is to get a cart, and that can really increase your visibility on your campus. I'm not saying don't do it. Hey, if we'd been doing it back when I was a principal, I probably would have had one as a way to just help me try to get out of my office more. I'm not poo-pooing that at all. But what I'm saying is, how intentional are you about the time when you're outside of your office? And if you're opening up your email on your phone or on your laptop during those minutes that aren't your email checking minutes, then you're letting that work intrude on and supersede the work that you're doing right now in the present, which is your administrative leadership or your instructional leadership work, right? You're going to go into a classroom. You're going to think about some feedback for a teacher or some great coaching questions to ask them about their practice, or you notice something really great in the classroom and you're trying to think of how can I get that teacher to teach this team how to do that, because that's really effective. And maybe at the next staff meeting, we'll have them showcase XYZ. Like, these are the things that you open up your brain to do when you're present in the moment around teaching and learning. And then it also allows you to continue to take that time to learn from the best educators in your building. The more you're in classrooms, especially of really effective teachers, the more you learn as an administrator, right? I was an elementary teacher, ended my admin career as a middle school principal, and then as a curriculum director who was over several different K-12 programs. And I had to go into classrooms and really learn from the best teachers I could find. So I knew what I wanted to see in all classrooms. And so I can't do that if I'm in the back of a classroom and I've got my laptop open, but I have my email open, because it's distracting, right? So keep that email closed, and then only open it up during your times. I'll talk about that in a second. Let me go back. My other suggestion is that you do not check email in the evening from home, and you don't check it on the weekends. Now, I did build this boundary in about 3 years in. I was a principal at a very affluent school in Austin. And I will just say the parents were very, very involved. I mean, to the extreme. You would get emailed things all times of the night and day that things they wanted, things they didn't like, criticism of the team. I mean, it was just, until I built some boundaries and some good relationships and some communication expectations around that for that community, which I did, and it really helped. But until that time, I would go home at night, open up an email, read an email, have it be something I can't do anything about until tomorrow morning, because I'm certainly not going to call that mom at 8:30 at night. because I can't call the teacher. I can't investigate what happened with the kids. There's nothing I can do until tomorrow morning. Why am I reading that right before bed? Because now my brain is on that. I'm going to wake up 3 times a night, worried about it. My brain's going to have that open loop again. I'm trying to solve it. So why are my emails open? And so I set up a really clear boundary for me. And I let my staff know and my supervisors know I will not be checking email when I leave the office and I leave school for the day. I'm not checking email anymore. And if I'm on home on the weekends with my family, I will not be checking email. If an emergency comes through, I have a cell phone. You know how to reach me. You know what my phone number is. Text me. Let me know, hey, I sent you something that is absolutely time sensitive. There are things, I can probably think of 2 things over the course of a decade as a principal where I actually had to do something on the weekend where there was an emergency situation with a kid and a family and I had to do something. So 2 times in 10 years. But the rest of the time, I might open up my email and have things I can't do anything about till Monday morning or the next morning. And so it was also a nice way to model for my staff. I'm not going to be checking these emails all day, every day on my weekends. And I certainly don't expect you to. I'm not hired to be 24/7. I have to have a life and a recovery, and so do you. And I set that expectation for my teachers and my community is that when teachers go home for the night, they're not on their email checking to help your kid with their homework. Like they don't get paid. They have families that they go home to in the evenings to take care of. And so we set those boundaries for them. And then I would let people know, hey, if you get wind of something or something's happening and you need me to know about it right away, text me, call me. All the right people have my phone number and information. They know how to find me. And about 3 years in, I started doing that. And for the next 7 or 8 years that I was an administrator, really the next 10, because I kept that up as a director, nothing ever came up that I missed that was important because of that policy. What did improve was my rest, my recovery, and relationship with my family. And so that was a great way to set boundaries for me, but also to model that for my staff. This is something that I really think I've just noticed maybe in the last 3 years or so, almost since the pandemic, is that having a mission-based reply in your email, letting people know, thank you so much for sending your email. I'm prioritizing being in classrooms and being out in the building, being the instructional leader. Our school needs to grow and thrive. Thanks so much for your email. I'll respond to you within 24 hours. Excuse me. I'll respond to you within 24 hours. And then if you have an emergency, contact the front desk at phone number. And having that auto reply. Some principals have those auto replies that go out. I think those are fantastic. I think it's a great way for people to know, first of all, they're wondering if you don't hear from you, did my email go to spam? Did they get my email? Did I send it to the right email? This way, if they're getting an auto reply, first of all, they know their email was received. They're also getting a message that tells them what you value and what you're prioritizing. And then they have an avenue if they have an emergency of who to call or what to call if there's an emergency that needs to be addressed right away. But having that ready to go is, I think, doing some of the work for you. All right, so that's my email system, and I'm going to show you really quick. This is the one that you're going to get at the end. And so basically what it has is it has a quick start guide that tells you the 4 different steps to putting the system into play with you and your administrative assistant. It kind of gives you some steps to follow to get that work done. There's also an inbox folder map, right? So this inbox folder map gives your administrative assistant some examples of what might go in a urgent needs response to do to schedule FYI folder, kind of gives them an idea there. And then there's an administrative assistant cheat sheet, right? That kind of gives them what are your goals, what to delegate, what to respond to, what to delete to archive, what to file for later. So this is kind of a cheat sheet that they can look at. This one is a PDF, but this one is an editable Canva template so that you can go into that in your Canva account and you can actually change some things in here so you can personalize it, right? So when you and your administrative assistant get together and make your plan for, defeating the email monster, that you can actually personalize this. And so that way, when they're looking back at this cheat sheet, they're seeing what your priorities are and what their job is around that work. And that helps them. So they don't always have to ask you if they come to something they're not sure what to do with it. And then I also provided this too, which is, you can make your own copy here, but this is a mission-based auto reply. So there's a bunch of different examples of auto replies that you can use. Some of them have instructional leadership version, short and simple, a parent-friendly version, staff-friendly version, after hours. There's a weekend one, right? So you might want to have a different one that goes out on the weekends that you set when you go out on Fridays. Or if you're out on a break or a summer auto break. Anyway, these are already pre-written for you. And of course, you can edit and use them how you want to, but it'll kind of give you an idea of what you want to be in there. Anywho, you're going to get that at the end of today because it's my mission to help principals not be eaten by everything. The administrative duties of this job keep us from doing the important work of this job. That's just the reality of it. All right. And so I already talked about this. This is about your healthy boundaries, right? This is how you take care of you. This is how you take care of your family. This is how you prioritize your time on the weekends and evenings so that you can be there and unencumbered. So all those things around doing your to-do lists, closing the loop for your brain so that your brain knows that there's a plan for that. Right? When you come in the next day and you can let it go and come home and really be present and also relax and recover. And so that's my hope for you. Okay. Like I said at the beginning, you do not have to try and implement all those different things, right? You can pick or choose a few strategies and try them out. I think the best one to try out first is probably your daily wrap up. Maybe the email system and the daily wrap up. I think if you do those two things really well, you'd be really on your way to organizing and prioritizing your time. But you have to think through which parts kind of jive with your personality and your style. And you know yourself also. It's like, what kind of thing can you really sustain and build a good habit around, right? But you have to give something a number of weeks, right? Before you go, this isn't working for me, because they say it takes, I don't know what, 28 times to do something that, one way to build a habit. Anyway, so when you think about it, put it in the chat for me. Of all the things we've talked about today, what's one thing you think you're going to try? I have implement this week, but of course, some of you aren't even in school right now. So when you go back on contract, or maybe you are back in your building on contract right now, what is one of the things that you heard about today that you want to try and implement? Daily wrap up. Good, good. Good. Awesome. Awesome. Well, I'll be giving you meetings on Mondays. Absolutely. Set your intentions for the week with your admin assistant and say, you're in charge of me. Do not let me misbehave, because I will. Right? Oh my gosh. Well, good. I hope you guys can try some of those things, that they really help you. I find that managing your time is the most impactful, influential thing that you can do to show up in the spaces where you need to make the biggest impact. Because even the presence of the principal in academic settings, in instructional settings, even if you don't give anybody feedback, your presence raises the level of participation. It raises awareness of teachers in the building. Like, believe it or not, just being present improves outcomes for kids, even if you didn't do anything. And of course, we know we do. We go in, we try to give great feedback. We have great coaching conversations with teachers. We try to amplify the good things that are happening in all of our classrooms through PLC work and through having great teacher leaders. But you can't do those things and amplify those things if you're not there to see them on a regular basis. And so I hope that helps you. Again, I'm going to take one more sip of water, and then I'm going to go into this next part. I hope you find that really helpful. And I just have a few things I want to share with you. So today we focused on one piece of principal leadership, right? Protecting your time. But here's the reality. We know that time alone doesn't improve just teaching and learning. To actually impact your campus, you also have to know what to look for in classrooms, how to give feedback that changes instruction, how and when to get your teachers the training they need and want right? Teacher buy-in is huge. They don't want to sit through a bunch of PD that they didn't have any say in. We know that's true. How to lead PLCs that improve teaching, right? How to build teacher buy-in and how to create systems that sustain growth. So today I'm going to invite you to take a look at the Purposeful Principal Club. After this meeting, I'll be going on to my site, my membership site for this membership. In just a minute, I'm going to show you what's inside. It's got a lot of really special things. The members that we have already are really making use of what's in there. And I'm going to show you in just a minute what is in there. But after this call, I'm going to go on my site and I'm going to upload and make active the new page. Right now, you can only sign up for the wait list, but it goes live today for our back to school membership drive. And so I hope that you guys will really consider joining us. And so first, I want to share what's kind of in here. So first, inside the Purposeful Principal Club is a couple of different courses that you can take. So if you're looking for needing your CPI or your CPE hours for the year, you can do that from your couch, from your office, just by doing the modules in this particular course. So this course is called The Pathway, and it has 7 modules from managing PD to leading learning, a module on how adults learn in case you don't have a big PD background, planning that leads to practice, building buy-in with your teachers, how to coach teachers and have coaching conversations, creating systems for collective learning, and then sustaining a culture of learning. And then the final lesson that's actually in this module is the lesson I just taught you. So I actually took one of my modules around time management and actually turned it into this webinar for you. So that's one of the lessons that's in there. And then there is a second course in there called The Principal's Guide to Leading with AI. And so many people are leveraging AI these days. Everybody's using it, right? Whether you're using Gemini or ChatGPT or Claude or a mixture of those three, everybody seems to be using it. This particular course is specifically designed for the work that principals do. It goes through some ethics and responsibility guidelines for schools and school leaders so that we keep ourselves safe and that our information confidential. So I teach you about that in there. But then I also take you through a bunch of different use cases. And I have videos where I actually walk you through all these different use cases for how you might use AI to make your job easier and faster. And so those modules are all in there. And then there's a whole bunch of different resources in there as well. Like, for example, there's something I call the GPT Vault, which is a set of about 10 to 12, I think maybe 10 or 12 specific GPTs that I built through ChatGPT that do specific jobs. Like there's a data analysis GPT that is already trained in the background to help you analyze data. There's one in there to help with newsletters. There's one in there to help with teacher evaluations. Anyway, they're already trained and ready to roll. And even if you just have a free ChatGPT account, you can use those links. And then in there also, I give you a lesson about if you want to build your own GPTs, right? I give you a lesson in that course about how to do that. All right, this is my favorite part of the entire membership is a resource library. So if you've been to my site, some of you may or may not have purchased, some of my resources that are there, right? I have a new teacher toolkit out this week or last week, and I have my strategic planning resources that are in there. I only sell kind of a handful of my resources, but the resource library is vast. And I'm going to show it to you in just a minute. So the resource library is something that I've built over the course of a year, almost a year. And every single week, I design and put something new in there. And so what I can tell you is for 27 years, I was a professional educator, right? Learning in the system. For the past 5 years, I've worked as a consultant and a coach all over the US, creating and designing resources to support school leadership. And once I saw how valuable that was to people who could then put them into place and use them because they didn't have to build them themselves, I thought, gosh, wouldn't it be great if I had a repository for all these great ideas and all these systems and resources that principals could just go and find what they're looking for? And I was like, what if I did a membership? Let's think about that. So then I spent a bunch of time, months and months before I ever launched my membership, I spent building the background of resources that are in here. And every single week, I design and drop something new. So let me open it up. I want to show it to you real quick. Hopefully I'm logged in. Yes. So if you log in to your membership, you will see this dashboard in Thinkific, and you'll see there's the purposeful principal pathway instructional leadership course. Here's the leading with AI course. And then I have two different resource libraries. You can see I have one by date, which means that every week when I drop something new in there, you'll see the month is dated by year and month. And so it's chronologically by when I release them. So that way, if you're like, gosh, I know Jodie put something out in the summertime and it was this thing I was looking for, and I can go look for it. Or if you're looking for something you're not even sure is there, I created a second resource library that's done by topic. So if, let's say, you're looking for something around chronic absenteeism resources or attendance support resources, there's a whole section in here just for that. Or tier 1 instruction. In a minute, I'm going to show you my tier 1 instruction resources. So this is by topic. That makes them a little bit easier to find. I'm going to open it up and show you, give you some examples here. All right, so this is just the welcome screen, and you can see that there's all these different sections. Like, this is attendance and student support. If I were to open it, you would see that there's absenteeisms, student-led conference toolkits, targeted support. Anyway, so all throughout here, there's all different resources. This section's on campus planning and school improvement. This one's on classroom walkthroughs, feedback and instructional leadership. This is data and PLCs. This is all support stuff for datas and PLCs. This is a section on getting teacher voice and choice in professional learning. Here's surveys and listening tour questions. Mid-year check-in tools. If you want to do a mid-year check-in with your staff, see how things are going. Here's a Google Doc for your mid-year check-in. Here's a form for you to send out to your teachers. Here's some support for discipline. Here's discipline referral flowcharts for elementary, middle school, and high school. I just developed those this week because our members asked me to make those. All right, this is one of my favorite sections. Let me open this up for you. So this is my Tier 1 series on best first instruction in every classroom. So there's a big focus, rightly so, and has been for a while, on we can't intervene our way out of terrible first instruction. Right? There is no intervening and tutoring our way out of poor instruction from the original classroom teacher. And so how do we build the skills we know teachers need that research tells us are the research-based instructional practices? So what I did is I built a 14-part series of 1-hour professional developments for teachers that you can use with your teachers. And they're based on McCrell's book, The New Classroom Instruction That Works. So if you've been in the biz for a while, I'm sure you read Marzano's book back in the day, Classroom Instruction That Works. And it was a meta study, right, of over 200 studies looking at what are the best practices that work in classrooms. Well, McCrell International is the research group that worked with Marzano to write that first book. He now has his own company and is doing his own thing. But this research group is still doing their work, as they have been now for decades. And they just a couple of years ago released 14 teaching strategies for best first instruction in every classroom. So they've narrowed it down to 14 Tier 1 research-based instructional practices that if our teachers did these really well, our Tier 1 instructional programs would be really solid. And so in this is just a little opening section right here. I'll show you a link to the book. I have no skin in the game for you to buy the book, but I wanted to give them credit, of course, for their amazing work in this area. And then, for example, here's the first section, best first instruction in every classroom. The first one they talk about is cognitive interest cues, which is the layman term for that is the hook, right? How do we get kids interested in what we're going to learn about today? And I include a session agenda, a set of slides, and I have to go backwards this way. And then there's an agenda, slides, and a presenter's one-page guide for every single piece, right? So that you can go through the entire series with your teachers and do 1-hour trainings all year round. Now, I'm going to preface that by saying you would never want to do all 14 in one school year. That's a lot for your teachers. What you would want to do, right? So, and this is one of the things when I talk to you about the coaching that comes with this, membership, this is how that works. And so my recommendation is that you and your leadership team and some teacher leaders do some learning rounds and some learning walks in your building, which we have resources in here to help you lead learning walks. Those are in here too. And then identify what you think are the key tier 1 strategies that your teachers need first. Oftentimes it's things like checking for understanding effectively, right? Randomizing and rotating who they call on, doing cold calling, making sure all kids are participating and all kids are speaking in class. So once you've identified all of that, then you go in and you can pick out maybe 2 or 3 that you want to focus on for the year. And then you do the 1-hour training with your teachers. The 1-hour trainings involve them talking about what it looks like in their classrooms. It's built into the training. Every single training has like, this is what it is. This is what it looks like. Here's some examples in different content areas. Here's some examples at different levels, elementary, middle, high school. And then it gives the teachers the opportunity to talk about A, how is it already happening in their classroom, or B, what could it look like in their classroom? And then they leave with a plan. Every single one of these 1-hour things has them building a plan for implementing in their classroom. And then you and your team start going into classrooms for walkthroughs and just looking for that particular thing for a long time until you feel like everybody's doing it well before you move on to the next one, if that makes sense. Like I said, you would never do all 14 in a year, but you would be really strategic about identifying what do my teachers need right now that's going to move learning forward the most. Okay. I'm not going to go through every single thing that's in here. There's so much in this resource library right now. This is all about hiring, staffing, retention. This is about math instruction. This is about organizational systems. Anyway, there's so much in there. And so I'm going to come back over here. So that's the resource library. And like I said, there's already dozens and dozens of resources in there that help principals do the work that you do to lead your school. It's mostly instructional leadership based. I've just started to add some things around discipline because our members have asked for it, and I'm creating things that they ask for. And so every week I'm designing something and putting it in there. And I'm designing that from a lens of 2 things, which is my many years experience working in schools, but also my current experience still visiting classrooms and schools and working with principals and seeing what's working out there in those high functioning schools that I can bring back and share with all of my members. All right. So that leads me to the live bi-weekly coaching calls. So as part of this membership, every other week, we have a live coaching call where the principal members who are available during that time, I kind of mix it up a bit. Like sometimes I'll do it on Wednesdays at this time, like a lunchtime, or sometimes I might do Fridays at lunchtime, or sometimes I might do a Thursday at 4 p.m. at the end of the day. I try to change it around a little bit because not everybody is available every other Wednesday at 11:30, right? So I try to make it fair for everybody and kind of mixing those up a little bit. But people come to these meetings and I do a couple of things. First, I highlight and show them what's new in the resource library because there's a lot in there. And as I create new things, people haven't had the time to go look at them. So usually I show them what's in there. We talk a little bit about how they might be able to use it in real time in their buildings, whether or not it may not be something that they want to use right now, which is fine. They might have something else they're working on. But then we have those moments where I do a check-in with everybody who's on. Excuse me. I'm getting a little frog in my throat. This is harder than it looks. But in those bi-weekly coaching calls, we also do a little mastermind style, right? So mastermind style means people bring their current challenges and they talk with us as a group about what's your biggest challenge right now, right? And they have a confidential group of people who are not necessarily inside their own school districts, but they can share the hard things they're working on. And people give them ideas for, hey, when that happened to me, I did this, that, or the other thing. I can tell you right now what we're spending most of our time is I ask them, what are your big goals for this year? What are you working on to move forward? What are you thinking is going to be your big rocks to take on this year? And I let them share about that. And then I try to provide them some kind of resources that are either already created or something we can create that will support the work that they're doing. And then there's also some coaching that happens around, like I ask a lot of key questions around that work that they're talking about, that they're doing, that I hope helps them think through some of the things they might need to do that maybe they hadn't thought of yet. And so there is a good amount of coaching that happens. And also not just by me, there are some veteran principals in the group that love to come in and talk and share too. And I just am quiet sometimes and let them take over the coaching, because they are coming from a place of experience and they're in it right now as well. And so bi-weekly, these coaching calls are really something that make this membership really special. Then we have our 24/7 Facebook group. It's funny. I have people come on Facebook and ask to join this group all the time because they think it's just an open group. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. It's a private group just for members of the Purposeful Principal Club. And so I'm always like, take a look at, watch it, join the wait list and come and see us next time when we're doing enrollments. And I'd love to see you there. So anyway, you can come onto the Facebook. I always encourage people to join this Facebook group because, first of all, every week when I drop something new, I post it in here. I show you what it is. I tell you about it. So it comes through your Facebook feed. You see what I worked on and what I just made. And you can say, is that something I need right now? I'm going to go get it. Or is it something I don't need right now? I'm not going to think about that for right now. But it's a way to get it in front of you quickly if you look at Facebook at all. So there's this. And then also people can come on there and go, hey, Jodie, I have this coming up. Do you have any resources for that? So you can ask me a question, or I'm dealing with this right now. What do you suggest? And so it kind of gives me an opportunity to respond in real time when people ask me questions, and I go on and I look at that Facebook group every single day. And so you may have something you're working on or something you're looking for. I'm looking for this resource. Do we have something on that? And either A, I can point you to, yeah, we do. Here it is. Go into X, Y, and Z section and find it. Or no, I don't have that yet, but I don't have anything planned to make for the next week. I'll work on that. I'll put it in there for you. So right now, our numbers aren't super big, right? A few dozen folks in our membership because we're just starting out in the past year. And so right now, getting in really early right now is really beneficial because people are calling their shots. Right. I was just on a coaching call last week, and one of my principals is like, we really could use some diagrams and flow charts for office referrals, so teachers know what discipline they should be handling and what discipline they can refer to the office and kind of what the steps are for that. And so I created one. Of course, I go out and look what's out there, first of all, and see what are people using, what's the most effective, what's research-based, what's common practice, right? Of course, I was an assistant principal and a principal a total of 14, 15 years, I think. And so I have a lot of experience with that too. And so I was able to create one for elementary, one for middle school, and one for high school, because the specific the behaviors that are on there, of course, are different for each of those levels. And so I've created those, and I also made them editable. So you can go in and download your copy and then update it with your specific stuff, because your process may be a little bit different, but it gives you something to share back with your group. I was just giving that as an example of, they asked me that for that last week. They asked it this past Sunday. It was the thing I uploaded this past Sunday because it's what they asked for. So it's like having your own consultant in your back pocket all year long, right? And I can tell you right now that private consultants, we make thousands of dollars a day when we come in and do an on-site visit. So like when I come on site for a day, I typically get paid $2,000 to come in. And now I come in and I create all the things that they need to implement that thing they're doing. So they also get what I call deliverables, or what we call in the business deliverables, that I give them that goes along with that work. But basically what it is it's curated and designed resources for the experience that they asked me to come and do. And then I come and facilitate it. The only difference with this is that I design everything. You're the main facilitator, but then I'm also your coach on the outside in our biweekly coaching calls or through our principal community, that you can say, hey, I'm doing this next week and I'm not sure how to implement it. Can you give me some feedback about that? And I'm absolutely there for you to do that at a fraction of what you pay for private consulting. And I'll share that with you in just a minute. It's very affordable. All right. So I have a couple of bonuses for back to school. The first one is this one, the back to school. So this bonus is only going to be for this back to school membership drive, which is between now and I think we're going to close down August 7th. So between now and August 7th, you can join the membership, and then we'll close it up for a few months to onboard our new members and kind of get in the groove before we let other people in again. And so I do that so that I can take care of the people who have joined me now. I don't just do a constant, everybody can come in whenever, because then I'm in that constant mode of trying to onboard people and all of that, and I can't focus on the work. In between membership drives, I have to be able to focus on giving you what you paid for. Like I want to make sure that you are taken care of, supported, and darn it, delighted by the work that I'm doing on your behalf. And if you're not, then I'm not doing my job. Okay, so this first one is the back to school start staff kickoff kit. And in here, you have welcome back slides that you can go in and personalize. There are agendas. I made them for you both in Canva and in Google Slides. So you can open it in a Canva template that you can personalize, or Google Slides, whichever your choice is. And then it has a facilitator agenda, and it has a staff-facing agenda that you can then update with your information. And then there is a team collaboration form. So part of the back to school first meeting that you have, there is some team collaboration that's built into this, right? So I don't believe in getting in front of teachers and taking up a full day of their time with just administrivia when they really want to be in their classrooms or meeting together. And so this is meant to be like a 2-hour kickoff meeting where you get to communicate the big goals of the year, let people talk and interact with those big goals for the year, share with them some important things they need to know to get things kicked off, and then they have some team collaboration time. And there is a team collaboration form to capture their questions, next steps, and communicate their support to you. There's also an admin planning worksheet to help you customize this meeting for your staff. There's a welcome back activities document in here that just has a bunch of welcome back activities to do with your teachers. And then there's also a plan for a first 10 days walkthrough template so that you and your team can look at the big things you shared with your teachers that you said you're going to be focusing on this year. And then the first 10 days of walkthroughs can be going in and focusing on those things and starting to give teachers feedback right away on the things you said were going to be most important this year, right? Kind of getting you started in the right direction. That's the bonus number 1. If you sign up right now, bonus number 2, this is the classroom impact tracker. So this is something I actually built for a private client of mine. And I was like, man, everybody's going to want that. Let me open it up. So you promised you're going to be in classrooms more this year, and you want your team to be in classrooms more this year too. Maybe you want you and you want your instructional coaches to be held accountable for coaching teachers, and you want you and your assistant principal or assistant principals to be really accountable for the work that you're doing. So this has 2 pages to it. This is the middle school example. There's a data entry tab. So you can see I've already put a bunch of data in here. Yours would obviously, you go in here and blank it out. And you could fill these in however you wanted to, but there's a row for when a walkthrough happened. This is the person that did the visiting, right? So this is your last name or your assistant principal's last name. This is your role, principal, assistant principal, instructional coach, other. This is the teacher initials. You could do teacher last names, whatever you want to do here. Then you have like, here's the subject matter, ELAR, math, science, social studies, CTE, fine arts, that kind of thing. This is the grade level. Here's the visit type, whether it's a walkthrough, a coaching, a learning walk, or a formal observation. And then if it is a coaching, let's say it is a coaching cycle that your instructional coaches are doing with a teacher or a group of teachers, then they can talk about what part of the coaching cycle are they in, right? Are they goal setting, planning, implementing, reflecting, or is the cycle complete? And then there's some quick notes that you can put in here about what you saw, things that you were worried about, because then you can download this and you can use it in something like ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude to help you analyze your walkthrough data so that when you have conversations with your staff as a whole, you can actually look and see, are the things we said we're prioritizing this year, first of all, are they showing up like we want them to show up? It allows you to look at and track all of your walkthrough data for the year all in one place. And then it creates, I built this so that as this data shows up, it makes this dashboard. So here's the classroom visit by type. Here's classroom visit by grade level. So you can kind of see we're doing more walkthroughs than anything. I'm visiting 8th grade a ton, but probably not 7th grade as much as we need to, that kind of thing. And this is month by month stuff over here. Anyway, when you sign up, you get this, but you also get an instructional video. I have an instructional video showing you how to use it, but also how to make some of the changes. So like if you wanted to edit some of these things to make it exactly like you want it, I show you how to do that in the video that comes with it. All right, then this is our last bonus, which is the Purposeful Principal 90-Day Jumpstart. It's almost like a journal, and you can print it out for your desk. And basically, it's a day-by-day, how do I make myself get into classrooms day by day? And so what they do is you go into this, and I won't open this up because it's basically a guide, and it actually shows you day by day how you prioritize and get into classrooms. And there are some places on there for you to reflect and think about it. And this kind of goes along with the course, the Purposeful Principal Pathway course. And this helps you build habits. So if you do this for 90 days and follow this plan for 90 days, by the end of 90 days, you will have a habit of going to classrooms every single day that you've built, just by practicing the work that's happening in that. Okay, so a quick wrap up of all the things you get. You get the 2 big courses, of course, that you can do at your own leisure. You get biweekly coaching calls. You get our Purposeful Principal Facebook group to come in and share anything you want to share, and ask for anything that you need. There is the amazing resource library. And then there's all the bonuses that are taking place. Sorry, my husband just got home. He promised he'd be gone until I was done. But anyway, thanks, son. Anyway, so that's everything you get in this entire membership. It's a lot of stuff. So what's the price tag for that, right? I'm going to get down to brass tacks with you. Well, it's $47 a month if you want to do it monthly, right? So I did see somebody asked, is it tax free? Yeah, there's no tax on any of this stuff. I've created all of this in a system where I actually had to go around and around with one of the companies that Thinkific that hosts all the courses and things, not to charge tax, because I was like, guys, these people are all tax exempt that will purchase this. And so there's no tax in any of this. And you'll be able to use your school budget to pay for this. But I'm going to share with you in just a second. So some of you have school credit cards, some of you don't, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So it's $47 a month for the membership, or you can pay for a year, right? You could pay $3.99 just for the whole year. And so if you think about it, all of the resources that are in here and continue to be created, plus all the bonuses, plus the coursework that's in here, for less than you pay to go to a summer conference. Like I went to TEPSA this summer here in Texas. That's the Texas for Elementary School Principals Association. And it was $600 for 2 days of stuff. And I went to a few things and learned a few things and left. And just like when I was a principal back in the day, I would go and I'd go, I got an idea or two that I really like and I want to implement or whatever. And I might write it down and I might try it or whatever, but it didn't really shift my practice in any real way. Or if it did, it was small pieces at a time. And I was paying $600, $700 to attend some of this stuff, right? I think I paid $700 last year to go to the ASCD ISTE conference. And so this is $300 just for a year. I mean, for an entire year. Right. And so when you look at the monthly cost, that's over 2 months for free for this membership. And also, some of your districts may have stipulations around memberships, right? So they may allow you to pay with a district credit card, but not something that is a recurring charge for $47 a month. That's where you might want to sign up for the full year and use some of your own PD budget. And then you can pay with a PO. And I'll talk about that in a minute. And there's no long-term contracts. You can cancel anytime. If you join it for a month and you're just like, I'm just not using this or accessing this enough, or like, I can't seem to make any of the coaching calls, or, I think Jodie's full of baloney. I hope that will be the case, but you never know. Not everybody loves us. Another lesson of the principalship, right? So anyway, you can cancel at any time. Stay with me till the end. I'm going to dump these bonuses in the chat for you in just a minute. Again, you can start today for just $47. And so what you could do is sign up for the month, and then you can pay for a year. later on with a PO or something if you wanted to do that once the school year starts, or once your administrative assistant who helps you with your budget is back in place. And so in just a minute, I'm going to answer some questions I see coming up. When you sign up, you'll get a couple of different emails that look like this that basically say hello and your name, and it gives you some links to sign up and log in and set your passwords to access all the things that are in the on the dashboard in Thinkific. And so all of that is in there. All right. So basically, I want you to think about if you showed up today, it's because you want to do something different in the coming year. You know something needs to change about your leadership in order for you to be able to sustain in this work. It's an amazing job. It's a job with so much impact, but it's hard. It's a hard job. And so you know that you wanted to do something to be different about the coming year. You want to do something different this year. That's why you're here, right? You're probably tired of rolling out initiatives that don't seem to stick, or training teachers on one thing and a couple of teams do it well, and then a couple of teams are a disaster, and where some of your PLCs are fantastic and some don't have any idea what they're doing and you're having to micromanage them. Anyway, you're tired. You're frustrated because you plan to go into classrooms this week and you just can't do it because of every fire or every person that pokes their head in your door. And you know that there's work you should be doing to improve your school, but you're not sure what that is because there's so many things going on, so many fires you're putting out every day. And you want a life outside of school. So all those things that I talked about today and the time management stuff, I also, at the beginning of our coaching calls every week, reshare one of those things that we talked about during that training today. And we talk about how that's going so that you have some accountability partnership around, am I implementing the things I said I was going to do? How am I interacting? Who's actually working off their to-do list? How's that working for you? And just some reminders as we go along that this is the work that will make us more effective. And so building that constant kind of partnership with you so that you kind of have reminders about the work, right? So this is your opportunity to kind of do something different. And you might have a few doubts. You wonder about how you can pay for this. So if you go to my website in just a minute, I'm also going to put the website link in the chat. But if you go to my website, there's this little guide on there called 4 Ways Principals Can Fund the Purposeful Principal Club Membership. And so it talks to you just about your basic budget. It also talks a little bit about Title II funds. So Title II funds are for professional development. And I used to be, like I said, I was the C&I director my last few years working for a school district. And one of my many jobs was to manage and write all the title grants every year. And so Title II was a fairly big chunk of money that came in that we would use to fund professional development for the year for the different schools and, you know, our yearly conference that we put on in the district. But there was always money at the end that kind of got left over, didn't necessarily get all used up. It was never all used up. I can tell you that right now. And I would reach out to principals and say, what are you going to this summer that we can help you, whatever, so we could use up the rest of those Title II funds. Now, some districts may account for every single penny and they may tell you tough luck, but it doesn't hurt to ask. Calling the person who's in charge of your professional development budget and the PD money and just saying, hey, do you have any extra money for me to join this particular resource for the year? Or you may have it in your own professional learning budget. Either way, I have some information in here for your administrative assistant. There are a couple of links to quote pages that you can submit to your district so that you can get a PO run. So you can pay for this, doesn't have to be on a credit card. I do only take the month-to-month signups by credit card. But for the full year, if you're going to join for the full year, I'll absolutely work with your admin assistant. We can do a PO and we'll work all that out. All you have to do is put her or him in touch with me and we will figure it out together. You don't even have to be worried about it. We'll figure it out. You're feeling like you don't have time for one more thing. That's what this is about, is that we have a lot of systems and resources already ready to go for you that you don't have to create. And if we don't have one and you want to see one soon, I'll make it and put it in the library for you. And then you'll get coaching about, okay, how do I put that thing in play? This is the kind of support behind the scenes that you need because you want to put things into place and do things, but you don't have time to do it all yourself and reinvent and chase down all the resources and all the things to make it happen. You just need to be able to jump in and implement. That's what this membership does. Or you tried PD for, you never get much out of it. This is much more than just a PD, a one-off PD. This is a whole entire library of resources that support instructional leadership and help you do the real work. Anyway, I hope that you will consider, I'll kind of skip through to the end here, but I hope that you will consider at least joining us in this membership. We have an amazing group of principals already, and I would love for you to be part of that group. Like I said, we'll have membership open just for a couple of weeks, and then we're going to close the membership and onboard our new folks, and it probably won't be open again until maybe October. And so you have a chance to sign up today, and I'm going to put a couple of different things in the chat for you. First, I'm going to come over here. And if you go to my site, this is my site, principallead.com. And here's the membership site right here. Right now, you're going to see it only has the join the back to school wait list. But when we hang up this call today, I have another page ready to roll. And I'm going to go on there and put the enrollment page up so that you can enroll anytime from this afternoon through the next few weeks. And I hope that you will consider joining us. This is an absolutely invaluable resource. I can tell you it's something I wish I had when I was a principal. And here are the things I promised you. Okay, so this first one, I believe, is the email monster. And the second one, system. And the second one here is the daily wrap up. So make sure that you can open those before you leave me today. I want to make sure that you can open those. So open those and download them and save them. And then I'm going to pop over and look at my webinar questions. The title of the book, that's Eat That Frog. So in case you didn't catch it, the author is Brian Tracy. It's called Eat That Frog. Several of the things I talked about today are in here. It's a good audiobook too. It's a quick audiobook. You could go to the gym today and almost listen to the whole audiobook. It's that quick if you're a slow worker outer like me. Anyway, so this is the book. Well, I share this presentation and slides with you. I probably won't share the slides, but I will share the recording. I'll send out the recording for you so that you can look back and at some things. And there might be some things in this recording you want to share with your leadership team. If you're an assistant principal, you might want to share it with your principal. If you are the principal, you might want to share it with your assistant principals. By the way, if you join and you are a principal, all the things in the resource library are open for you to use with your whole campus. But I do ask you not to share with principals outside your campus, right? If they want to join the club, that's fantastic. If they ask you where you got something, please point them to the club. I would love to have them as members. But on your campus, you are open to use any of the things in there and implement with your staff, including your assistant principals. And they are tax-free when you purchase. Absolutely. Let's see. My teachers will be implementing a new literacy curriculum this year. So there'll be a large focus on Tier 1 instruction. More than ever, I need to prioritize time in classrooms and walkthroughs. When thinking about all the leadership team members that could complete walkthroughs, what percentage of total walkthroughs do you feel should be done by the principal versus the AP versus the student service? Got it. Okay. I will tell you, I don't know that they're, I think you and your assistant principal should be doing the most, right? I think your instructional coaches, right, and your multilingual coordinators, their support might be more targeted, where they might be in certain classrooms more than others. And then once your instructional coaches actually start going and doing coaching cycles with teachers, that takes up a good portion of their time because they're going in there, they're modeling instruction, they're modeling strategies and things like that. And so I would say that for that tracker, you probably want to see your actual admins doing the most. But when it comes to learning rounds or learning walks, that's different than walkthroughs, right? Learning rounds or learning walks are about, as an instructional team, learning about what's happening in your classroom, coming to some common understandings about what you're doing well and what needs to grow and change, and having great discussions around that. That includes some of your teacher leaders as well. And so that's very different. Learning rounds and learning walks do not necessarily, or they don't give direct feedback to individual teachers, because it's not about any one individual teacher. It's about getting a snapshot of what instruction looks what instruction looks like on your campus right now. And so, pardon. So yeah, in my personal opinion, I think the principals and the APs need to be in classrooms as much as possible, right? Now, the truth of the matter is, your assistant principals are still doing a lot of what I call practitioner work, right? Which is things like discipline, and they might be doing certain duties you are not doing. So when it comes right down to it, you should be the person with the most walkthroughs for your building as the campus principal, because you are the instructional leader of that school. And getting into classroom as much as possible, if you organize and delegate effectively, you should have more time for those than your assistant principal. But that being said, your assistant principal probably wants to be a principal one day, right? So you want to make sure that you're kind of in tandem, side by side with them, expressing the importance of classroom time, and both of you figuring out how to make those things happen. I hope I answered that. If I didn't, you can turn your microphone off and let me know. All right. Any questions here at the end that you want to? I'm going to stop sharing. Does anybody want to unmute and have a real life question beyond the ones that we already shared? Want to thank you so much for your time today. Most of you stayed on here to the very, very end. That's amazing. Appreciate you. Appreciate the work that you're doing, that you remain in the trenches doing such a hard job. I hope it's incredibly rewarding for you this year, and I hope you have a great year. And I hope I see you inside the Purposeful Principal Club. Can't wait. Can't wait to get to know you. We're going to have so much fun this year. All right, friends, go to my site. I'm going to log off now because I'm going to go over there. I'm going to set it so that you can start joining if you want to, but hope to see you in there. Hope to see you in a coaching call really soon. All right. We have one next week, by the way. So if you join this week, you can join the coaching call next week, which is coming up, and we can talk about the instructional leadership. By the way, if you purchased one of the things recently on my website and then you end up joining, I'll refund the thing you bought, because the thing you bought's probably in the resource library. And I would feel bad that you join the club and are paying for the club, and then you also pay for this resource on the side. So if you join the club and you bought a resource from me, I'll refund that for you so that you're not paying double for the same resource. That's not how I do it. Anyway, thank you. Appreciate you guys. Love the work you do. And I'm here if you need anything. Just email me. Take care.